So, let's start. Okay. Okay, so once everybody is here, I will start the class. As a tank, you're going to want to make sure you can see as much of the screen as possible. This would also mean to make sure that you have a good user interface, to have as little clutter as possible. I'll be covering this in a bit. Of course, if they have any questions, they don't have to hesitate to ask. Or a really good monitor. Yes, but that would work as far as a good monitor. But it's important to see where you are standing. I was just asked if what classes can be tanks. There are currently 6 classes: Paladin, Druid, Warrior, Death Knight, Monk, and Demon Hunter that can be tanks. Each has their own strengths and weaknesses, and of course I plan on covering them all eventually. Of course, this is more of a general class right now. Let's see, I was... Ugh. Of course, today I'll be covering some thinking basics. So, let's see what's first on the agenda. Start off with the importance of a properly set up hotbar. Of course, keybinds are important for any class. You'll want to have your rotation bounded keys that you use often and are comfortable with. Normally, these are the number keys, but they can be pretty much anything that the WoW interface will allow. Ignore someone's chat. Let's see here. Okay, with your hotbars, you'll basically want your main rotation to be right where your hands are comfortable. The last thing you want is to get a cramp in the middle of a particularly intense boss fight. Oops. You basically want to keep an eye on your cooldowns at all times, especially your active mitigation abilities. Basically, some of them are on a long timer, so you'll need to prioritize what you use and when. Again, make sure that these important abilities are keybound somewhere too. Okay, we have a question. Let's see what it is. Do you recommend putting them in order of importance, order of timer down your keyboard, your key bar? It's more towards your personal preference, but I personally like to keep my binds in order of importance. Like, for example, my consecrate is bound to 1, my pull to 2, etc. And if you're actually watching this, either live or on YouTube, you can actually see my current setup. This is actually something I had planned anyway. For your quote-unquote oh shit buttons, I recommend putting them right next to your main rotation for easy access. These are basically your self-heals, your defense boosts, etc. And we have a next question. Let's see what they want to know. You know the extra buttons above your main hotbar? Okay, basically they were asking about the hotbars not normally tied to your main one, the ones that are numbered 1, 2, 3, etc. Unfortunately, I'm not entirely certain if it's in the Blizzard UI itself, but there is an option if you go into your settings and your keybind options, there should be something there. And Lyasti basically just said the same thing I did. Go to your escape, go to the key bindings, multi-action bar, and the options are there. Should I order them like that even when I'm a hunter and DPS? Um, This was more of a DPS question, but DPS is different from tanking as you wouldn't be focusing on staying alive and taking the damage yourself. But I would recommend having your main rotation bound to easily access buttons too. It will be the same for healers. Basically, your keybinds are more for your personal preference and what role you have, whether it's melee DPS, range DPS, tanking, or healing. Basically, your rotation is based on your class and your role, and if you're in a dungeon or raid and you're soloing, most part nothing should change between them. Basically, your rotation should stay the same, something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the like. Basically, you will be repeating your rotation throughout the fight. The main exception here is if you need to like pop a heal or an active mitigation ability. Those would basically be taking priority over your threat generating abilities. Okay, so I just asked if there are any other questions about hotbars and your rotations. Um, shouldn't your taunt be in your rotation? Basically, your taunt should only be in your rotation as if you're in a raid and you need a taunt alongside your other tank. You should only really need to use it in a 5-man dungeon if you're losing your aggro or need to pick up stray ads. So if you're tanking, you should always be on the top of the aggro chart. Your pull should also generate a lot of threat on its own. So basically you wouldn't need to taunt as much in this situation. So for example, I personally have my taunt just above my number 1 ability, so I know where it is at all times, but I only use it for certain fights. Should DPS be on the aggro chart too? So basically, if you have a thread meter like Omen, which I do, then they will show up on the list for you. Everything generates threat, healing, dealing damage, taunts, and the like. It's important that the tank has a high enough lead that taunting shouldn't matter. Okay, like as you just said, if you're getting close to the tank on threat, you're really bringing the boss down. And Rashrak just said, or the tank is bad. Basically, every tanking class should have an ability that generates threat at a higher level than a DPS or heal. Paladins are Righteous Fury, but pretty much every class should have one of their own. Also, I have a question about add-ons if you have time, or if it's a good time to ask for it, I can wait though. So there's a question about add-ons. I will be covering HUD or UI add-ons later, but this might be more of a generic question. So let's see what Lyasti has to say. Since I actually did cover add-ons like Omen, this might be a good idea to get into some add-on questions. So once I hear Laiasti's question, I'll answer it and move on to actual HUD questions because the HUD bars are pretty much simple to understand as long as you keep binding them to a um, easy to handle keys. See, when I tank, I really don't have much of a problem generating and maintaining threat. It seems as though it's basically done for me. Is there then value in having a threat meter add-on like Omen if threat management is barely an active concern? That is a good question. Which is a good question. Omen strictly isn't needed, especially in 5-man dungeons, but it's useful to make sure nobody's trying to pull threat from you. As far as add-ons go, the only ones you really should get as a tank are Deadly Boss mods and GTFO. I consider those both mandatory. Which is, GTFO is pretty much very useful when you're standing in something you shouldn't be. It'll make a noise when you're standing in a puddle and the like. Or as some people say, you're standing in the crap. Or the fire, or whatever. Be ready to listen for that obnoxious beep. Yes. So let's see if there are any more questions for what we've covered before I move on to the next main topic, which is the user interface. Okay, so first off, I don't recommend using the default Blizzard UI. So it has pros and cons as far as the default Blizzard UI, but there are lots of good HUD add-ons that will help you with your tanking. So, see, what add-ons do you recommend? So basically the one I use is ELVUI. There are others, Valerie or Guild Leader. I use it as a GW2 UI, and I've noticed a few others that could be worth checking out. So basically the important thing with the HUD add-on is to declutter your screen. So basically, as a tank, your eyes will basically be darting all over the place. You don't want to cover too much of the game with icons and bars.
Farewell.
So basically, with HUD add-ons, you can customize your screen to your liking. So basically, which one you decide to pick is based on your playstyle. You can try them all if you want, but still for one that works. Basically, ELVUI can be found on their own website, but all the others can be downloaded directly from Curse. Basically, as I mentioned earlier, your eyes will be doing a lot of moving around. So basically trying to keep a watch on the entire battle. These user interface or HUD heads-up display, whatever you want to call them. These skins will let you see the most important elements in your peripheral vision. It's basically the location your hotbars, your health bars, your enemies bars, etc. are pretty much important to you. Basically, as a tank, you'll need to know whenever everything is at a glance to react accordingly. Okay, let's see. I basically recommend having your health, your enemy's health, and their focus to be just below the center of your screen. Basically, this way you won't have to wander too far from the action. Basically, I also have the raid bars off to the side. As you can see here, on my screen, it's generally to the left. You don't want it too far off, so you can make sure nobody else is taking hits. Basically, each HUD add-on like ELV GW2UI, other ones, should have a way to toggle where each anchor is. These are the bars and icons that you would see. So basically, if you want to move your health bars to the direct center of the screen, you can do that. If you want your hotbars to be off to the side, you can do that too. That's what makes these add-ons so good to use, is their flexibility. You're not stuck with your standard Blizzard UI. You can move things around as you want. Also, the smaller the icons, the better. I generally use default sizes, but on the ELV UI. But as you can see, they're already pretty small enough as it is, where most of the screen is already showing for me. But the more screen you have showing, the better, which means that you'll be more prepared to move out of the way or to kite the boss. You'll be able to see more of the arena this way. Also, it's very much recommended to pull your camera out, which will give you a better view of the field as well. Basically, the more the battle you see, the better off you'll be to react. There's an add-on that allows you to change the maximum distance of your camera as well. There are probably several actually. Lyasti uses MaxCam. I still just use the default camera distance, which is good enough for me, but do know that there are other options to even make the distance even further than what Blizzard offers. Basically, the importance here is to be able to react to your environment quicker. That's just why you want to have as much screen space as possible. We will pause here to see if there are any questions, and I will continue on from there. Okay, it sounds like we can continue on. We are actually almost done with what I have prepared, so it might be a hour-long class this time. Um, let's see. Basically, here is another thing you should know about tanking is that you want to avoid tunnel vision. This is where you focus on one spot of the screen at all times. You basically would want to have your eyes darting all over the place. You might need to kind of mob around the room because of a puddle they drop, or you might need to dance with the boss to make sure that their abilities don't hit you or the rest of the group, for instance. This is tunnel vision is basically bad for anyone, but as a tank, you'll be making sure that the mob is always on you and following you. It's also not good on the eyes. Basically, the final thing you want to take from this class is that minimalistic is best. Basically, you want to keep your most important user interface elements just inside your peripheral vision. You would want your unimportant ones pushed off to the side. Basically, again, with HUD add-on you use, it's up to you, but pick the one you're most comfortable with. So I just asked if there were any further questions. We'll see if there are any questions. I was just asked about about their setup. They want to send a screenshot, so I critiqued that after the class. Do you have a chat links add-on, or should I post it in Discord? And since it looks like there are no further questions and I've covered everything I wanted to, I will end the stream here. And you can watch this on my YouTube channel. It's the same channel name as I have here on Twitch, so just do a search for that, and you can watch this and all the previous. You can watch this and all the previous taking classes on my YouTube channel.